Dude, I do this like for every video 8 times at
Dude,
least.
it's the intros are the hardest part, man. I'm telling you.
Honestly, the hardest.
They're so bad. What is going on, guys? Today we have a special guest with us. You saw it, right? This is going to be the creator collaboration. We have a Meet Me on Mars hanging out. Mars and I are always hanging out together. Well, not always. We hang out a fair amount. And how long have we been talking about doing something like this, Mars?
It's been some weeks, probably a couple months
like
now.
A couple months now, for sure. So go ahead and introduce yourself. I'm assuming anyone knows me because I clicked on this video. If you don't, I'm Hal. Welcome to the channel. We do FFBE and other Final Fantasy stuff. Let us know a little bit about yourself. Meet Me on Mars, the other fellow Final Fantasy Brave Exvius content creator.
Hello, everyone. My name is Meet Me on Mars. And I'm from the planet Mars, or something like that.
He wants to be meted on Mars. You want to be meted on Mars?
I want to be meted on Mars.
Yeah,
Yeah, but since nobody meets me there, I just want to be nicknamed Mars. That's just the shortcut there.
That's exactly. That's what your name is in game, I think, too. It's just Mars.
It is actually, yeah. It's because Meet Me on Mars is a big old mouthful, and nobody wants to go MMOM or just call me Mom, and then it just gets real bad from there. So I'm fine with just being called Mars. It's all good.
So today, guys, we're gonna be talking about, Mars and ourselves. And a little bit, just we're not going to over glorify how cool we are or anything of that nature. That's not what we're talking about here.
I'm pretty sure my mom's the only person who's ever said that I'm cool. So
well, maybe she's watching this one, but we're going to be talking about some personal why did we start content creating, as well as a lot of stuff to do with Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. So let's get into it. Let's rattle off some rapid fire questions real quick. And so what's your favorite unit in the entire game, real quick, so everyone knows? You're on the spot now.
Yeah. I have to say Edgar. He's in like every party.
I knew it was coming.
Dude, he's got a castle, but it would be like really impossible to combo him without my favorite Blondie tank, Sieghart, as well. So they're kind of like a combo choice for me a lot of times. Really love Edgar. He's in like every party, but if Edgar's not there, Sieghart is also there.
Duo. So mine, obviously, and anyone could probably guess, it's 2B. Or not, but we're gonna go with 2B for that. Favorite Super TMR, not like what you think's the strongest, but what's your favorite Super TMR?
I think my favorite has to be Coin of Fate Sabin.
I knew you were gonna say it, dude. This man out here with the brothers, the Final Fantasy 6 fan, played it one time. Got him.
No, I haven't even played it one whole time.
Banana
no, you give me too much credit.
Banana Sid
it's
out
taking
here.
me like. Yeah, dude, Sid Nana is the best. But Coin of Fate Sabin combines two of my favorite things, which is being impossible to kill and having a massive FFBE EP. It is honestly the most ideal SCMR. Yeah, so for me, it's right up my alley.
It's true. So I have the inverse. Instead of having the most massive EP, my favorite Super TMR is actually going to be, a lot of people are going to yell at me for this, AI Katy Perry's upgrade package, because it allows you to do so many things. And
that one's extra thick.
And it gives you a little bit of an EP, but allows you to put extra limit burst damage and killers in there while maintaining that capped attack, if you get your hands on it, even though you can't anymore. Sorry, guys out there, if you don't have access to it, but I'm going to be using that thing till the end of time for most of the units there. Then obviously we talk about Super TMRs with TMR. Real quick, favorite TMR.
Lilith's easy.
I was gonna say that.
Battle.
Man, okay.
Yeah, dude,
Lilith
it
TMR
is
too
the best
strong.
TMR. It's
too
good.
If you guys didn't get your hands on Lilith TMR and you have a tank that can wear a mace, maybe one day, next time there's an opportunity for you to easily grab a Lilith, do so for sure. So let's get into some quick stuff right here. Why do you create content / what got you into creating content specifically for FFBE?
Yeah, for sure. I think I've talked about this a few times, like on my live streams, but I don't know how much I've talked about it on my channel. But I basically started writing posts on Reddit originally. I was a Reddit tryhard originally. I was writing posts all the time, talking about. Yeah, dude. I wrote posts like crazy, talking about different units that people were kind of sidelining, or like I honestly felt for people who were just like, oh, I pulled this unit and everybody says they're trash, and now I don't think I can clear content. And I kind of like got my first upward momentum when I was using Veritas of the Light, because she was so quickly dismissed, and she was somebody that I was looking
really
looking
good.
forward to, man.
Yeah, I remember
Hey,
making a video. We were hanging out just the other night, and we were going over old videos I made. And I called Veritas Delete Frivia 2.0, I think, in one of my old videos.
Yeah.
Shout outs to myself. Quick plug on the channel here. But
dude, if you haven't seen him yet, you need to make sure that you watch Hal's FFBE content.
No,
an amazing content creator.
Don't go watch the old stuff though. It is
it's amazing.
It's not the prettiest and does not sound the best. But me personally, I got into FFB content. I answered this question a couple of times too, but I was pretty sick and pretty much homebound for a while and got pretty bored and couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. So I started making FFB content, random YouTube stuff. FFB kind of caught on. It was the game I was into, and then I kind of started figuring out what was wrong with my the illnesses, and just was an open gateway. The community, came in, they liked what I was doing, and now it's what I'm, doing right now and exploring as a possible career for the future, expanding all that cool stuff. So that's what I'm doing here. And as for the why I create content, I mean, I'm just really into the openness of team building and stuff is the thing that initially drew me into it, because it's not just hit the guy as hard as you can. Some fights can be, it looks like on the surface, and a lot of them can be too, but there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with different team compositions. Make sure all those boxes are checked nowadays is what it really feels like. But yeah, I really like that part. So let's move into the next segue here real quick. That was a smooth transition. Look at that. Didn't even see it coming.
It's
guys.
Almost like we practiced this for hours.
We did. Not at all, but it's working out pretty well so far. So how does it feel to be a content creator for a game that you enjoy? You don't gotta be like, oh man, it feels amazing. Like, how does it, like, you feel any pressures? You get any what are the positives, the negatives of the content creation? Not a whatever you want to call it, job, pastime, hobby, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I for me, it's probably going to be different for you for sure, because for me, this was creating a YouTube channel was something I wanted to do to propel a career that I already have working in digital marketing. So like my pressures are kind of different. Like I feel kind of a peer pressure from people where it's like, oh, I don't want to disappoint people who like my content and who follow me or subscribe, or like, they're just waiting for the next thing. Like for me, my biggest pressure is like not wanting to let people down. But it does give me kind of, some freedom, because I also don't feel like financial pressure, because I'm sure for you, like, to make content creation your career, you got to be like busting it out all the time. And like for me, it's like, well, if I want to take a break, for a week, that's fine. I'm still working my 40-hour a week job. It doesn't like
if I take a break, I decide to slack off. My payment for that week is 0 hours, so I make $0. I also rhymed that again. Dude, why do I always rhyme? No matter what, I'm 0 hours, $0.
Just latent talent, man. Just
too
raw,
much Final Fantasy 11.
unrefined talent.
All those Lalafels and Taros need to get right on out of here. So for me, how does it feel to be a content creator? Yeah, there's a little bit more pressure, financially or whatever is a thing, but it's doing pretty well. We're still, growing, and that's the thing that I always have been trying to do is not only grow the channel and grow the community and stuff, but I also want to, get better, whether it's equipment or editing styles or techniques or whatever. I just like learning. I told you this, I think the other night, like I like learning new stuff if it's something that I am genuinely interested in, so like Photoshop, video editing, all that other stuff, audio editing, which had a little bit of experience with some of that stuff in the past, but not so much for a lot of it. Yeah, it's pretty cool being able to interact with the community. The down, like the pluses are also the minuses a lot of the time, right? It's cool to be able to be that person where people ask you questions, right? You get that all the time as well as a content creator, and sometimes it's just. It's all of the questions, it's not like, it's you like being able to do it, but sometimes just like sometimes it's all not of the questions.
It's, hey, I want to comment about how you have man titties, or I want to comment about how, like,
goodness gracious, yes, sometimes,
yeah, like, so you'll get the questions, and questions are one thing, but it's not just questions. You get everything when you put yourself out there.
You get the pluses, you get the minuses, and yeah. So the last thing, is that it's almost sometimes like hard to have an opinion, and people just treat your opinion as just your opinion with no, what do I want to say, no ulterior motives, right? So if I say something bad about the game or whatever, I'll have people who are like, yeah, and then I'll have people like, oh, you're a hater. And if I say something good about the game, it's yeah, oh, you're a shill. It's like, I can't ever, there's no winning. There's no winning, a lot of the time.
You get everything.
You get it all from every side. So I mean, we might have to take that part out. This is supposed to be a PG stream. Oh my goodness. Anyways, thinking about the biggest fail. So into more FFBE stuff, what was your biggest fail in any way, shape, or form? Or in your biggest win? So it could be content, it could be battles, pulls, whatever.
Yeah, I think my biggest fail, and this is probably a little bit more real talk than you were anticipating, but like it was the first time I like wailed and whiffed on a banner, and it was before I was like streaming my polls. It was before it was like part of my content creation. Like I wasn't defraying the cost with the content creation. It was like me paying out of pocket to try and get freaking Ayaka on a solo rainbow banner. With
the healer to change everything.
Yeah, and you know what? I was sipping that hype Kool-Aid so hard, like I was drunk on it. I was like, I gotta get this, gotta get her. And that was when like I kind of stepped to the edge of the abyss of like, the whole gambling addiction sort of
you were
thing
deep
that
then.
Like,
okay.
Well, no, I wasn't addicted. I've been able to like moderate it. But like I saw the precipice and was like, oh,
you were about to be in deep.
Yeah,
okay.
I was like, I see it now. I see it so clear how people get sucked into this.
This man was fighting smog and looking at the golden treasure. Yeah, okay.
Dude, I just saw it and I was like, oh, I get it. I get how people get addicted. And so when people say like, oh, you're addicted, because like I said, you get everything. But people say that, I'm like, yeah, man, whatever. Like I know myself now because I like saw that edge and like walked away because it was so rough. And it wasn't even like the biggest whale I've ever heard of, but for me, like it was $500. That was like a lot back then.
Yeah.
And so that always stuck
back during high school. Yeah, that $500 is a lot.
Oh God, I wish. But that was the worst I'd ever felt about the game in my entire life. And so that for me was like a painful lesson. But
yeah, that should be one people can relate to too, even if it's not such a massive scale. Because like, what's the one of the most common complaints? I pull for unit, didn't get said unit. I'm very mad, and that stuff does happen. Even if it's only like I did one lap and didn't get anything, like that's like it's the nature of the beast too. But yeah, you have to pull those reins in for sure.
And to talk to the biggest win, to kind of counterbalance, a little bit of a somber note. I think my biggest win was when I did my first ever tour of destruction. Because that was kind of like a landmark moment where I finally broke out of doing Marlboro clears and re-clears dozens and dozens of times. That was like what my channel initially. Yeah, dude.
The Marlboro channel. Meet me on Marlboro.
Meet me on a mound of mangled Marlboros. Yeah. That was like my channel. But the Hyo Tour of Destruction was like one of my biggest pieces ever that I released, and it was exciting because it kind of broke me into doing something a little bit different, and it became kind of a staple for my channel that kind of defined kind of the feel and the look and kind of the atmosphere of videos that I did from then on out. Yeah,
from what I heard, no one's allowed to do unit displays on YouTube. Otherwise, they're copying you. That's what I've gotten. I've got one of those before too.
I mean, I've seen the keywords that you use on your videos, and I definitely notice when you use Tour of Destruction in your keywords that you try to rank 100%,
dude. I put Meet Me on Mars, Hyo, Tour to Destruction, Meet Me on Mars.youtube.com, definitely in there.
I'm wise to your games.
All over them for sure. So for me, the biggest fail, what would be my biggest fail would probably be when we pulled for Awakened Rain. Because I really liked Rain, and I think we ended up because we had saved up so much lapis for that, and I think someone even on the stream ended up buying like another couple thousand, like 10,000 lapis or whatever, because we had saved up like 60-70k, because that's the character that I wanted. I didn't want to have to spend it all, but we ended up getting like like 7 or 8 Medinas before we got a single
No.
rain, dude. Yeah,
Oh my God.
It was awful. It was
and
terrible.
Tell me the last time you used Awaken Rain. Do you even know when that was?
Let's see. Before Bosch got enhancements, I used
Nice.
Awaken Rain all the way. I use my characters have a long shelf life. I know it's hilarious because
It's true.
I do have a lot of stuff on the account and whatever. And there's been a couple of banners where we've gone in pretty hard, but like outside of that, there's a reason why I've cleared the last 15 trials with the same team pretty much. I'll upgrade like once every like 5 months or something. Just save that stuff up. But the biggest win, I'll count this as the biggest win because it was one of those banners. It was I think it was on my birthday stream actually, for the Victor Marchenko Adam Jensen banner. And bless this man's soul, we ran out of lapis again. I know, hashtag content creator things, and someone was like, do another 5k pull or 10k pull or whatever. So we bought one of the smaller bundles, and then we got the EX ticket for the EX reward because we had finally hit that threshold. And I was like, you know what, guys, this is the time. This is it. And we used the 5-star EX ticket, dude. Out pops Victor Marchenko, and I don't think I've ever seen chat go faster than that in my entire life. The only thing that could be tied with that is when I went to go pull for when CG Lid came out. I know I'm doing a double win, but it's okay, dude.
Yeah.
Before we spent anything, just one rare summon ticket, CG Lid. I was like, all right, I'm done. That was the poll. That was the poll video. That's why there was no poll video for that banner. I was like, all right, guys, it's a poll stream. Let's go start with tickets. 1 ticket. We played. This is why it was the biggest win. I was like, we're gonna summon her, and we played the FF7 Highwind theme. Sid Highwind's theme when you're flying around. Yeah, exactly. And she just came. The crystal came down and just CG Lid. And I was like, all right, cool. We're out of here.
Dude, didn't you do this recently with Elena too? Didn't you pull her on like an EX 10+1?
Probably. I'm really lucky in this game.
I remember that. I remember. I was there for that stream.
I'm actually like probably ridiculously lucky when it comes to this. I mean, the last time I think I pulled was huge. It was Elena, and yeah, we got lucky there. And then you can just go ask Clay. He tried to pull battle me. I got more on banner units in 1 lap than that man did in like 4. Like. It was over. I was like, yeah, I got a super TMR and both 7 stars. Spent 5,000 lapis.
Dude, I feel for him. The more he wants a unit, the more Gumi pumps the brakes on his rainbows.
Exactly.
They're like, we got to get him to thirst after
you just got to be like nihilistic and a Debbie Downer, and you'll get everything you want. So that's exactly how it works.
Dude, I did that for the Kaido banner. I was like, dude, I want nothing but Tsukiko, and I really wanted Kaido, and I just got shat on with Kaido's and not a single Tsukiko, and I was like, see, this is how you play the game.
That's the easy
you lie
wins.
to it.
Man, the desire sense and you fool it. All right, so all that stuff was super fun and whatever, but there's a lot of new players are entering FFBE. I feel like anyway, because I get a lot of new player comments. I don't know about you in PMs and stuff.
Absolutely.
And in the Discord and stuff.
Yeah.
So let's tackle this quickly. Some stuff for maybe new-ish, brand new, maybe people who've been around for a little while. So what's your most important tip for someone that's just getting into it, have been into the game for just maybe a little while, a couple months or so? He's got
I think it's I've thought about this before, because I've had people that I'll tell about this game and they're like, oh, I'll try it, and it's like, I think you'll try it, but here's the thing. I think the best advice I can give to somebody who's genuinely interested in playing Brave Exvius, the best advice is to just take your time. Take the time you need to play through it. Don't freak out about meta this, newest hotness that. Like, there is so much in the game that you can play and enjoy, and you don't have to worry about all that stuff. Like, the rest of that kind of comes with time. Like, just take your time, enjoy the story, enjoy the events as much as you can. Like, you'll get there. And like, unless you're a day 1 player, like, you missed out on stuff. Like, I started probably, I think, like 6 months into the game's life, and so I missed out on a lot of stuff early game, but like, did it really matter in the end? Of course not. And you just got to take your time and you'll burn yourself out if you freak out about trying to play catch up on a game that's been out for 3 years.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And like, I remember when I first started, and I was patient, and I did start with a good reroll. That was my first thing. But after, I just remember like it felt like I booted up World of Warcraft or whatever, and I was in vanilla, and like you know, I and everyone else was like in Wrath of the Lich King or something, and I was like, okay, cool. Well, this will take time, and I was just learning and stuff. And I just remember like slowly working towards stuff. I remember like I really need that event shield, you know, and I still remember that stuff. The game being like that, you know, it's not really like that anymore. I've been playing the game for 3 years now, but yeah, I do totally agree with taking things slow and not having to worry about rushing down bosses, and that's a way to get burnt out 100%. 100%. And this is kind of in line with what you said, but it's more resource oriented. So like, yeah, I see a lot of players in the Discord and stuff you know, complaining that, you know, they're always out of lapis and they never get any characters, and really what you need to do is if you do get a strong reroll, if you like rerolling or whatever, to get like maybe a character that's good or something, that's a pretty good point. But the second point is to take it slow, not only with the gameplay wise and not having to rush through all the trials, but don't feel like you need to be pulling at every given opportunity. You know, you're going to be a new account. You're going to have a lot of, you know, lapis through all the story mode that you need to be able to complete. That's going to give you a good initial chunk, and you really want to use that in the most efficient way. You don't want to be spending it on, you know, 250 daily pulls. You want to be spending it on half of a step up banner, right? There might be a cool character that looks really cool, and you might have 10,000 lapis, you know, but if you save that, because you're not really guaranteed anything in that 10k lapis, you know, you need to save it till you have like, you know, 24k or 25k or whatever that step up is. So that's what I would say. Be very, very, very conservative with your lapis, and go for things that are upgrades for you and things that you like to use, but at least aim to get something. Don't like, you know, super RNG. Step ups are in the game for a reason, basically. They're there to give you some sort of reward for pulling on the character if you get really, 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 really unlucky. Outside of that, let's see, the most important units. I have here written most important units most. So awesome. What are the most important units most?
As far as most important units go, I think you need to kind of have a solid core of units that you can use for a long time. And that's basically going to be anything that is not a damage dealer, because damage dealers tend to have like an expiration date, right? Where eventually a piece of content will come out where the burden is too great to try and beat the content with that damage dealer. But I mean, with any 7-star tank, any 7-star breaker, any 7-star healer, you can clear all the content that we have right now. And some of them offer advantages, sure, but like you can do it, absolutely.
And especially talking about damage dealers, especially as a newer player, you're going to be on this like nearly impossible wall to climb to catch up to where you might be able to make some friends in a Discord or on Reddit or whatever social media, or, you know, in the comment section, who are going to have incredibly powerful damage dealing characters. And you working on yours is you're gonna hit the wall of not being able to live before you hit the wall of not being able to beat stuff, because there's gonna be a lot of friends that can beat a lot of trials in 1 or 2 or 3 hits for you. If you do want to beat those trials early on, as long as you can survive a couple of turns as well. So I totally agree. Supports, healers, tanks are the most important characters, and this is going to segue there. I think one of the most important units that you can have, you want someone to mitigate damage, whether it's breaks or whether it's general damage mitigation or what have you there. So definitely look into those characters. You know, someone like a healer. I think even like Warrior of Light Lena has like triple cast white magic at 6-star. Like that can carry you pretty hard. And now as we're recording this, I just remember there's going to be a video up that came out yesterday about a subject that goes right into that. I did not plan on to that, but yeah, going into most important mechanics, I'm going to go first here this time. I'm going to say damage mitigation, whether it's breaks, whether it's having a tank that can cover. You really want those breaks. You really want the general damage mitigation. I've seen a lot of people on Twitch, because I hang out on Twitch sometimes, and they're doing a fight, and it's like, if you just use this skill on turn 1 or whatever, get that extra 10-20% damage mitigation, you're not going to die. It just won't happen. And they'll be like, okay, And they'll do it, and they'll be like, they'll go from taking literally like 7,000, 5,000 damage a hit to like 1,000, and it's like, now you've got it, you've done it, you know. So that's my answer for that. What's yours?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, and I think that would be my answer, with like the asterisk of sometimes having like the best damage can make a difference.
Yeah,
when it enables you to like cheese something in a way.
For sure.
But some people don't like that, and so the general rule of thumb is if you have ways to mitigate damage, that's going to be like your most reliable way to handle content. And like the best practical example I can think of is taking on Emperor, who's, you know, the latest, greatest, scariest.
Oh man, new player going to fight Emperor. Oh my goodness.
Well, you know, maybe not for a new player, but to illustrate, even experienced players are complaining, oh, you know, my damage dealer kept dying, so and so kept dying. You know, and I just couldn't manage it. And they're like, oh yeah, I was using so-and-so's 70% breaks. And, you know, they kind of think like, well, 84% breaks or 80% breaks or 79% breaks, that's close enough, right? That's not that big of a difference. But like,
especially since the stat change thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Because, you know, and that's a whole technical thing, but it makes a big enough difference so that when somebody watches one of my videos where I'm using like the elevated break percentages, and they're like, what the crap, your units aren't dying, it's like, well, yeah, because I'm mitigating the damage. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, it's like you're wearing 2 or 3 extra pieces of defense and spirit gear compared to them at that point. You know, you're mitigating, it might only be like 6 or 7% more damage, but or maybe even like 10 depending on what they were using or higher. But it's
and on Emperor it was on Emperor, what it was doing is it was reducing the amount of damage my damage dealers were taking by about 2,000. So if they got hit by 3 meteors, you know, which is the RNG mechanic that wipes most people, instead of taking, you know, enough damage to kill them, they would take 6,000 less damage just by having that elevated break, which is like half their HP bar or more, depending on who it is. So,
right. Yeah. That's why that damage mitigation is so strong, because, you know, especially as a newer player, like, you're gonna have to get into gear, and when you see, you know, players who have characters, like even just like tanks and supports, like how do you have, you're not gonna get like a 20,000 HP support or like a 16,000 HP damage dealer right away. You might not be doing some of the top end trials, but having a character that has access to these damage mitigation mechanics are going to help give you the ability to live, you know, probably long enough to make it through some of the trials, right? Trying to have someone carry you through anything above Aegeon for the most part, you're gonna have a rough time as a new player, because you're not gonna have very much gear. So going into this, let's talk about some unit picks, I guess, here. So what are some of your good units? You gotta go too in depth. I mean, you just do whatever. Good units.
You want to target unit archetypes or like specific
units, just ones that you like to use. Basically, you don't really need to go into like super detail about exactly, you know, to what ratio of a degree of power around the dark side of the moon to Mars, about, you know, about why you like them.
But everything has to be measured to Mars for me, and you know, because of the great distance, that's why personally, I think some of the hallmark units are the ones that kind of do multiple things well at the same time. A lot of people say, oh, versatility is great. It's like, well, versatility is kind of useless if you're spread too thin, or if you only are a one-trick pony, if you don't do that one thing well enough. I like units that can do like 1 or 2 amazing things at the same time, which is why I really like Mira, for example, the healer. Because she can do a lot of different things in a single turn. She can do her healing, she can do her buffing, she can do entrusting, she can manage MP, she can remove negative status effects on your party with her limit burst. Like, she has a really robust kit with a lot of stuff that she can do that doesn't take away from her main role as a healer. And of course you can say that about a ton of units, but particularly being able to heal and entrust, that enables so much power within my party. So using her as kind of like an enabler.
Man, oh man, if you're not living up to, are you sure you didn't watch the video that I haven't released yet that came out yesterday? Because this one's coming out the day after that video. Are you sure you didn't watch that one? Because that's definitely in there.
Look, I'm not a stupid guy. I know that Mira's OP. Like,
oh, she's so
really
strong. Yeah, she just offers a lot of stuff that you can take a high amount of advantage of. So I'm gonna fire mine off, and then you can fire another one off for your own. But for for the same reason I like Sylvie, because Sylvie's she's like a jack of all trades but master of none, really. But she does have some things that she does really well. But the reason I like Sylvie the most is not only is she like a jack of all trades, master of none, but the things that she does are so powerful, even though they're temporary, that she's like the ultimate, patch hole filler. Right, like
your flex pick, I don't have a thing. Throw Sylvie in there, you're good.
Exactly, like I have Myra that does all this strong stuff, but some of her stuff, like the buffs take a couple turns to get to 160. But in the meantime, you have like the Sylvie's buffs, or maybe you need an imbue or a temporary, or a temporary breaker or whatever. Exactly, like Myra does a lot of status element resist, but not all of them. Sylvie can do stop while Myra does charm, etc., etc. She's like a very flexible Elmer's glue hashtag we're not sponsored by Elmer's glue sort of character. and then she does a bunch of unique stuff that only she can really do at the same time, because she's one of the only characters that does like all of the different things, and she's got strong cooldown skills. She just got strong non-cooldown skills as well, and I love her limit burst. I popped that thing off, max that 74% all resist. Oh my goodness. All right, so
and it's funny because people say like, Mira and Sylvie's the perfect combo, or Sylvie and Sosa's the perfect combo. It's like, no. Sylvie combos with everyone.
Yeah, you missed the point. Ultimate hole filler. Exactly. She's plugging Easter eggs in all of the holes in your team to patch it up, keeping this PG. But yeah, she's plugging a lot of Easter themed holes. But any other like unit that you think is pretty alright out there outside? You can't talk about Edgar. Edgar's not allowed.
I'm not gonna bring Edgar up again, I promise. The one that I'm gonna say like a category of characters, because I can think of like 3 off the top of my head that fit it perfectly.
Okay.
Which is your tanks that can provoke, mitigate, cover all in one package easily. So Card, Charlotte, and Galoof are probably like top 3 picks for that, because they cover such critical, that whole mitigation point.
The damage mitigation is pretty much like if you have those characters and you can make that their main role now too, because 50% mitigation, like we were talking about before, is just so strong. They're so strong. There's not a lot of characters that just pop off 50% mitigation as just like a thing that they do while fulfilling a very pivotal role of making your team not die to damage. And they have both those things, which is very incredibly strong. Other good units, I mean, I have to talk, I gotta shout them out there. My girls, CG Lid, Infina, Swimsuit Edition, out there, 5 Imperils. Almost, she's like the reverse of Sylvie. For the most part, it's got the breaks, it's got the Imperils. She's very flexible in the way that you can bring different sorts of units into your team comp, right? You don't need chainers anymore if you don't want to. You can start running a chain finishing team comp, which could be pretty good if a new player did get their hands on CG Lid and Fina, because now you can start adding a bunch of people who are using very strong chain finishing characters, and you can build a chain for them with your fully supportive team. And I've ran a team like this for a long time, where it's support, tank, healer, damage dealer, and then maybe a friend damage dealer or a support. And it's just like you have so much, so many answers, so many different threats, elemental resistances, damage mitigation, breaks, heals, re-raises, all this other stuff, that you can do really good damage. And you might even be able to run that as a new player, because like we said before, the damage dealer you're going to be able to put up is like 3 months in this game is going to pale in comparison to like any sort of veteran player, who's rocking some 3,000 something. You're not going to come close to that as a newer player.
Right.
So why not, take your damage dealer out if you have someone that can make a chain and bring a chain finisher. So I like those kind of characters too, for both the flexibility and team comps that you can make, as well as being able to abuse the chaining system as a newer player.
They can do a lot. Some Lid, Fina, they offer a lot in their kit. Extra thick.
I like them. Big inner tubes. We'll go with that.
That's what those are.
All right, so we're gonna combine this next one together. One overrated unit and one underrated unit, if you had to pick.
Yeah, overrated and underrated. Can I have you answer this one first? Because I'm still trying to formulate in my mind what my answer is.
All right, so I'll do it first. So underrated unit for me is definitely going to be the global buffed up version of Bosch. When Bosch got his enhancements, not a lot of people really like batted another eye, but he got a lot of cool stuff added to his kit. He got really tanky. And I've seen people like throw him to the wayside even after the enhancements. Obviously he doesn't do what Charlotte does now or anything of that nature, but he can be a temporary side breaker for you. But he's got some real talk about thickness. He's got some real thickness when enhanced.
No
so
joke.
if you've been looking for, you don't have a physical tank or a magical tank of the newer variety, you don't have a Seeker, you don't have a Galoof, you don't have a CG Charlotte, and you're just kind of messing around, and you haven't even looked at Bosch, maybe you're using like Wilhelm or something, you might want to look at Bosch, because Bosch does a lot of cool stuff with his kit there. As far as an overrated unit is a lot harder, and it's probably why I got past the torch. I mean, overrated unit, here's what I'll say about an overrated unit. Whatever the new hottest best damage dealer that just came out is always going to be overrated, not because they're bad, but just because it's, hey man, this guy does 5% more damage in this current situation than all the other characters. He's number one. He probably is in that situation, but he's still overrated because it doesn't really matter that much. If you're because it really like the point that you made in your video that I responded to in that I highly agree with. There's a lot of stuff in there that I agree with too, and we've talked about this before. The whole power creep is dictated by content, not necessarily units. Who cares if your character does 20% more damage when the character right under it kills the trial just as fast, if not like maybe 3 turns later? No one really cares, and that's what makes the newest, hottest units a little bit overrated. Not that they're bad, and not that they aren't getting the praise they deserve, but just by definition, people overrate those units all the time, in my opinion. So what about you? 1 and 1.
Okay, I'll go ahead and tail on on overrated, because this one I locked it in before you started talking about underrated or overrated. So I've decided it's Kryla. I'm
overrated?
So sorry to people who love Kryla. I think she's overrated.
I agree with you too, man.
Yes, I think because I have her and I've used her, and obviously
bad,
she's really good.
Like
she's really great at re-breaking.
She's on this pedestal that I can't comprehend. Not that she's bad, but like she is like, and she's got them nice slick shoes, boots, whatever. I understand it, ladies and gentlemen, but she's like somewhere up there, right? That woman is on a pedestal that I can't reach, and I'm like 10 feet tall. But continue. You go,
Dude, okay, here's what it is, because I've used her a lot. I have her, I've tried her out in a lot of things, and people say, oh, she's great when the boss buffs themselves and you have to re-break, or when you have to reapply break, or you have to do this or whatever. And it's like, well, yeah, but what if you don't have to do that? What if you literally just like set it, forget it, break the boss, now what? And people are like, oh, she can do elemental resistance. Okay, but so can Calamity Border, like so can equipping Carbuncle with Barfaraga, like. I mean,
she is good for those reasons, but like, and she does deserve the praise for that. But it's like,
I wind up.
It's
with
on
so
a whole other level. It's like you want to be met on Mars, dude. She's like beyond Pluto. She's in another solar system somewhere. That's how far this pedestal reaches for that character.
Yeah. And the bottom line is, I think it's that when I've played her, I feel like she has nothing to do when she's not breaking and imperiling.
Yeah, that's why I
does it all in one turn, and then what? Like,
I really wanted her Hex Eye, Cursed Eye, whatever it was, to be like a scaling with Spirit multiplier or something, and use killers, so she'd have like, maybe she'd give you a little bit of oomph. But yeah, I mean, she's got the imperils for all the elements. That's great. What are they? What are they now? Like 70-something%, 80-something%?
I think they're 75.
Yeah,
or maybe they're
75, somewhere around there. Yeah, they're good.
Most damage dealers will apply better ones themselves.
Yeah, but she's got that
where
flexibility though, like Lidfina does, where if you want to use someone to imbue and then use her as your imperiler. So I think that's good and stuff. The buffs, the elemental buffs are good and stuff. I wish she had if she had like one more supportive aspect that was like super necessary, right? If she has some sort of
like
damage
LB
mitigation
or
something like that.
Any other thing, and I'd be like, Kool-Aid drunken, like I'm drinking all that
because
Kool-Aid.
Like being able to like re-break and stuff's really good, but like it's not like she's the only character that can do that. With a little bit high tide, and the other characters maybe require a little bit of gear, but like I like snap my fingers and my Lidfina gets their limit burst back. Like if you have the opportunity to get a Bowie knife and another dagger, and you go get high tide plus a couple times, like you're gonna be sipping. Yeah, you talk about sipping Kool-Aid. Be like,
dude,
I have passive 7,000 high tide. Just like a crystal falls into your lap, and like, my limit burst is full. sort of thing. But yeah, she is good. But like I'll say, she's another universe when it comes to the hype train. That was a good
yeah,
pick,
dude.
100%.
I think she's overrated, and we can go ahead and segue into overrated or underrated. God, I keep mixing them up. I must be tired. Underrated. You can tell me if you think this is still true. Historically, it's definitely been true, but you can tell me if it's Ignis.
Yeah,
Ignis.
so he's gotten. I even underrated him a tiny amount when he got his enhancements. He's really good. If he had the one thing where he didn't have to just use cooking, that's his main weakness. But you can overcome that. You can have someone else that has a very temporary. There's a couple characters, a very temporary high damage mitigation buff, or someone else who has like maybe you have an. Because he can't put damage mitigation and buff your defensive spirit on the first turn. That's his main weakness.
Well, he gives you 30%.
Right, but he can't. Cooking. Yeah, he can do damage mitigation or buff your stats. You can't do both. But like, if you have some character, that's great, like Ornn, right? Like Ornn would be insane with him, and Ornn does do more damage later on. But like, if you have someone to give a giant stat buff, or
like Mira's first stat buff,
or Sylvie. Sylvie, is this Sylvie combo? Yeah, I mean, you're using two buffers, but like we talked about, that's a totally reasonable thing that you can do.
You can do it with Galoof. You can do it with anybody who can do turn one something. And the thing that if people are like, oh well, you can't have it on turn one, I'm like, no boss is gonna come out on the gate on turn one and just crap all over your party. Like no boss hits the hardest on turn one. You can usually survive just fine with 30% mitigation, maybe basic buffs or whatever. Like you'll be fine. I can't think of any fights that are so punishing on the first turn that you like have to be fully buffed and ready to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, outside of Omega, unless you have fire resist.
Well, that's a preemptive. That's cheating.
Dude, that's you ain't even on turn one yet. Your party's on the ground.
That's turn zero. That's
exactly.
still correct.
But even if there was a boss that did do that, it's not like you don't get to use 6 party members to make a team.
Right.
So like, you can cover his weakness up for sure. And he's got a lot of cool stuff that you can do. He's not only like a buffer and parallel. He's got 50% damage mitigation, which is like if you don't have a tank that's got 50% damage mitigation, that's one for you there as well. And then he's got his limit burst fill is crazy, absolutely crazy.
His bean soup is Nyx's 20 turn cooldown skill that he has to kill himself to use. Yeah, that Ignis can spam.
Bean soup. Was it 12 a cast, so he can do 24 a turn? Limit burst gauge.
I think it does 28.
Yeah, and then
it's crazy.
And then maybe you have Myra in your team, so you give everyone some limit burst gauge, and you entrust one dude. And then maybe you have someone else to entrust. Maybe you're
running Demon Rain and trust the
or Merc Ramza for a tank. You have Merc Ramza, Myra, Sylvie, Ignis. You just entrust every turn full limit burst gauge to your party. Sorry.
Dude, that's why my Farian squad is so fierce.
Dude, you can drop your shares for actual characters now. How do you feel about that? Oh,
exactly.
My goodness, that sounds pretty good.
Freaking shares.
Oh man,
dude, that meta share strat.
But I got a lot of questions about him because I didn't like gloss over him. It was just like when I did the Awakening review, I was like, he has higher mods for most of his stuff. He just kind of does what he did before, but better. And now he's got a little more gauge fill, right? If you want to abuse that, he's really good. And it was kind of it. I kind of spent a lot of time on the other character, Hio, because Hio got,
he got a lot of changes.
He got pretty good. Those global exclusive buffs are good to him. So
we can always talk about Ignis as much as you want. I mean, I love talking about my future husband.
He can hear us. Yeah. He just can't see us. All right.
He's blind after all, hence the glasses.
Exactly. But he's immune to it too. 2000 IQ. Speaking of 2000,
can't be blinded, he's already blinded.
Speaking of 2000 IQ, we're gonna get into more of the FFBE stuff. So you put out a video not too long ago. I responded to the video, and we talked about it the whole time, which was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of people, not a lot of people, but man, the reactions to that, but both of them.
There's a whole spectrum of reactions.
There was some people in the middle, but most of them were like definitely pretty polarizing one way or the other. And I don't know if you did. I've got quite a lot of comments that are like, you guys should just hash it out. Like not hash it out, because hash it out sounds like we're fighting or whatever. But you guys should.
Some people thought we were.
Some people totally did. I got not death threats, but close enough. Like, I can't believe you're doing this. I was like, oh my goodness, did you read this? Did you read the description? Like, because we've been talking about this there for a long time.
That night before you released it, like we were up until like for you it was like 4 a.m. playing Overwatch. Like,
and then when I woke up the day after that video came out, I'm pretty sure you sent me a message and it was a screen cap of something, some comment, and you were like, "This is all your fault," and I was like, "Okay, my bad, boy." Oh man, but no, there's a lot of cool points in that video, but in both of those videos, but
no, you're not wrong.
To get into more the FFBE, you know, I have a high IQ, dirty deep questions phase of the show here. We have let's break into it real quickly with what is your most favorite kind of content in FFBE, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, this is kind of a tough question for me to answer because I feel like my answer has changed kind of over time. Because when I said, like, if you asked me a year ago, I would have just been like, Trials, dude. I just freaking love Trials.
Yeah.
But Trials then meant all kinds of stuff. It meant 3-star espers. It meant Chamber of Arms. And I know a lot of Chamber of Arms were like, you know, in a lot of espers, they weren't necessarily that hard, but it was something that maybe you had to like put a tiny bit of thought into. You had to have maybe some sort of strategy for, you know? And so I loved anything that I would have considered then to be Trials, whether it was, you know, those 3-star espers, the Chamber of Arms, the Chamber of Indignant, and some of those other things. So you had kind of like a whole spectrum of different types of Trials. These days, if I say Trials, it kind of implies the same sort of stuff we've been getting lately, which is Chamber of Vengeance, series boss battle, and Chamber of Indignant, all of which I think are awesome. I think they do get a little bit samey, which is why I have to say, like, I do like I like a broader spectrum to it, where it's like it's kind of a different sort of trial for a different purpose. And a different theme to it, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I like what you said too, because and to go back to the older Trials, I had a lot of fun then too, and I think a lot of people did too. And what I think they were doing back then that a lot of the global content's doing now, and some of the bosses do, but some of them really don't, is that back in the day it kind of felt like they were exploring what was new space back then, but not so much now, right? Like when there was the first time a trial had a fixed attack, it was like, oh, what is this fixed attack, you know, that I can't cover or provoke or anything. That, you know, now it's kind of like that's a samey thing, right? Or the first time we had a boss that I'm thinking of like Sheraton, where like if you were doing Sheraton the normal way before it got changed, but when it was bugged, I think you could kill it. I think the first day it came out, you could kill it from 100 to dead without it phase changing. We did do that on stream, which was hilarious.
Yeah, I know you could still counter it past its threshold as well.
Yeah, which is like a weird thing that I think you can still do that to like all the bosses.
Yeah.
But the first, I think Sheraton was like one of the first hard fights that had like weird ways to combat certain things, right? Like Veritas of the Earth was very powerful because he absorbed the earth damage, but you could build them dodge, and then they had multiple phases. Was it the first boss that had a hard HP threshold?
Yes.
49%?
Yeah, I think it was the first actually.
Boss
and I was gonna say,
and then it changed
that was
an
something
entire
that I think
phase.
made it unique.
Yeah.
Because like the way that you approach like a Chamber of the Vengeful or a Chamber of the Indignant is like, well, if I can big wiener it hard enough, I don't have to deal with mechanics. Like I can skip stuff or I can push phase or whatever. But like Chamber of Arms, regardless of which fight you went into, you had to at least be prepared to deal with a minimum of one threshold that could body your whole team if like you weren't. And at the time, like it was scaled pretty well, and then they got kind of behind, so it wasn't always scaled well.
Yeah.
But for some of those, like there were particularly punishing threshold attacks that you just had to like be ready for.
Yeah, was it Tegmine? I remember getting a lot of complaints about Tegmine because like
that guy was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was part of FFBE's problem too when it comes to combat, is that a lot of stuff happens all at the same time, but there was that one threshold that Tegmine did where it was like it would like hit you with a really hard hitting water attack or something on a threshold, and like if you were imperiled and you didn't know that was coming, you were just dead, and he would do a bunch of stuff back to back to back, and in the middle of all that stuff going off, you wouldn't die to any of the other stuff, but you wouldn't see like it's like toxic deluge or something, or maybe just deluge, and you would just instantly die halfway through. Sewage
pouring down or something.
Sewage is raining down. Sewage is raining. Yeah.
Horrible.
But that would just like absolutely destroy you, and you'd like die halfway through all of his animations. And a lot of people didn't know what's going on. I was like, you need to put up a water. You need to dispel your water in peril and put up a water buff, and you can go right through that threshold. You won't take any damage.
And I don't know if that's like unique to that fight where it's like, you don't really know what happened. Yeah, I think
that's just a thing.
Like, hit a threshold. Yeah, but I liked it because your mentality changes from how do I do enough damage to bypass the mechanics to okay, damage is kind of a given. I'll get the damage I need pretty easily, but how do I survive the thresholds, or how do I deal with some of the unique mechanics that might require character swaps, which I really appreciated about the Chamber of Arms.
I'd like to see more threshold things, and we can get into it more with design later on, but like because like thresholds are cool, they make you do the fight, but if they rely on them too much when creating a fight, you're gonna run into a fight where it's like, okay, there's a threshold every 5%, I'm forced to do a mechanic, and at that point, you know, it'd be kind of cool the first time, maybe possibly, but then it'd get really samey afterwards, and people get real upset. Like, my damage doesn't matter, I'm just doing 5% all the time, sort of thing. And I think the other thing that made Chamber of Arms really unique was the sprites for the bosses changed. I like that a lot.
Oh yeah, cool. I love the transformation, and I felt like I loved the theme that all of them had. They all felt super original. All of them had like an orb integrated in their sprite somewhere that like I guess represented the power of the weapon that you were trying to reclaim. And I love how like it would shift into like their new sprites in different ways, and I just love that. And like Tegmine in particular, like the orb you can kind of see in the coffin, and then when he bursts out in his zombie form, like the orb's in the middle, and then as you take him past thresholds, his head
I never
falls
knew
off.
What he was. It's just like, okay, it's just a slimy
he's an
body.
Undead. I think he's an undead split with something else. And as you take him through thresholds, like his head falls off, and he loses like his arm or something like that. Like he just starts falling apart. And I was like, thematically, that's really growty, but really awesome.
Because speaking of thresholds, and so speaking of thresholds and not being able to just kill a boss forehead, the Elena Vengeful Trial, which those are designed to be more mid-court content, which we'll get into not too long from now. But I didn't know there were dragons in that fight. Like someone had to tell me there were dragons in the Elena trial, you know. And in that trial, you know, you and I talked about that. We don't relate the design of that trial because it's like if you're trying to not use Elena or some sort of hybrid damage dealer, it's a totally different fight. And it's just like I don't like a trial that's ever designed to like you need to bring XYZ AVC unit. You know, because like we're at the point in the game where like there's a lot of optional or a lot of usable units for a lot of different stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I don't like it. You need to bring Elena or Malphase or what's her face, the Nagi, or you know, or whatever have you. But yeah, someone had to tell me there were dragons in that fight. I was like, "There's dragons in this fight? What do you mean? She just died."
And the reason it was so frustrating is even if you use the next best hybrid damage dealer, which is either like Malphase or Nagi, they don't come close to doing like the easy route, which is with Elena, you kind of just one-shot the ads.
And just limit burst. Yeah, you limit burst the ads and you kill the boss, and then
But they don't do enough damage. Like any other hybrid dealer doesn't do enough damage, and so then it's like, all right, well, I either have to use physical or magical and kill one of them at a time, and you have to deal with a lot of mechanics. And when you build a fight in such a way that it's like, all right, the best thing to do by 100,000 miles is to just GG easy with one particular character. It doesn't feel the best.
And I know those characters are supposed to be stronger in those fights, which I'm fine with, right? Like the characters, they have bonuses, right? Like Elena has bonuses, but yeah, definitely should not be like you need to use this character and only this character, because you could do Exterminator Extreme with a lot of different characters. Obviously, it was easy with Esther for a lot of reasons. She was really strong at the time. She also got a lot of damage bonuses. Like, was it 30% all stats or something for being in the?
Yep. And she was Thunder, which was the only element you could hit him with.
And didn't she absorb? Didn't he do earth damage and she resists earth? Obviously, these fights are like based around her, and he does like a thunder attack on the second phase, and she absorbs it. So obviously, these.
I think it's that you would equip Golem, and innately that would like boost her Stone Killer, and that just made her tankier against it. I think.
Yeah, and I think he had.
I don't think she absorbs it, but.
No, there was like a thunder attack, I think, in the fight too, unless I'm misremembering.
Oh, maybe you're right.
During the second
and that's
phase.
another one of those ones where I'm like, there's a thunder attack.
Because I think there was like because what I remember doing is like I'd get hit, go to 1 HP, and then he would do a thunder attack and heal me back up to full life or whatever, because she had the ignore death thing. But obviously these trials are based around those characters being stronger, which is fine, but there's a difference between like Elena's like by far almost the only one you can do it the easy way with, versus I don't want to mix their names up, Esther having a significant advantage, but like not so much where it's like she's so much better in every way than all the other characters, like she was there. And then I kind of like the new one. I haven't done it too many times, but I like the design where like, you know, it's like you need to bring out these spirit things and kill the spirit things, and the boss damage itself. And that's kind of a unique way where they kind of, you know, there are ways to beat that boss without doing the mechanics, just like hit the boss over and over if you have a lot of gear and stuff. But kind of like rewarding you like doing it the easy way, but a longer way, by like just doing mechanics and having the thing spawn, and then the boss just eventually kills itself, sort of thing.
It gives you like a safe, no flex way where you can just be like in safe and easy 15, 18 turns.
Like the Count Shao and Bakia fight, if you did it with like no 5 stars or whatever back in the day, you know, if you did it the intended route where you use like Count Shao's voice or revenge or whatever. But yeah, they have shown
that's a better version of it.
That unique stuff is there sometimes, but yeah, I see definitely where a lot of the I'm really tired of fixed attacks or random stuff. We talked about that, like the whole you talked about with Emperor 2 this video, like the whole Starfall random target thing. Didn't like that, but we did talk about like the Neo X death, like death this thing in slot 1, this thing in slot 2, 3, 4.
I really like that design.
I like that design. Yeah, I like that design. The only pitfall for that is we wouldn't know about that being a thing unless we data mined or someone played the game nonstop for forever and found out
and just
pattern.
Play test
exactly, for 1,000 energy. So I, you know, the random stuff, fixed attack stuff, that stuff feels a little overdone. It's almost kind of like we don't know how to make you take damage, so we're gonna make you take damage sort of thing. You can't break the boss, you can't cover the attack. Just put up defensive spirit buffs and damage mitigation and put on some HP gear. I don't want the game to become a numbers game. I don't want to see that kind of stuff anymore.
And I don't mind it if it's like, you know, if it's here and there, but it's kind of been a staple since Gilgamesh Reborn.
Yeah. And speaking of Gilgamesh Reborn, I was going to talk about Gilgamesh Reborn in as far as trial design goes. And like, there's some trials that I enjoyed. I think they were designed pretty well for the most part, that I never want to do again in the right way, like Asura. Yeah. Like that trial was.
Oh, see, I love Asura.
So
I really like.
So I like how that trial's designed. I hate how I have to basically like treat the game like I'm playing a first-person shooter or a Street Fighter game, where I need to literally
you have your
see,
tutorial for 5 turns.
Well, that plus like I need to see exactly what she says at the end of her turn is there for like a half a second. Like you better take a screenshot, take a picture because it lasts longer, sort of thing.
Don't blink. Yeah.
And once again, the only reason I like that design too is because people have kind of figured out, you know, we don't even know exactly, I don't think, what all for stuff does, because there's sometimes maybe I just figured out now. I remember when I did it, like some things were just hitting me anyways. It was like, you need a guard here with exactly 1 unit. I'm like, okay, guard with 1 unit. She's like, nope. I'm like, what is that? You know, but I like that sort of like reactive sort of trial design, or like the ceiling elements with Gilgamesh. I like that kind of stuff. I don't want to see it overdone. And I like when I do it, it provides some sort of like a different kind of challenge, but then I never want to do it again, you know, sort of thing. I never want to see it in any other fight.
And Gilgamesh to me is kind of like how the Chamber of the Vengeful with Morgana trial is, where like you can do it with people aside from Elena, but it's so much harder. Same story with Gilgamesh Kai, where on release it's like you could do it with other units, but if you were doing anything besides Sid one-shotting it, it was like so much harder to do it any other way.
Yeah, there was a cheesy strat. Yeah, there was a lot of requirements for that fight. Definitely.
Oh yeah, and the thing that like was kind of frustrating about the mechanics with element sealing, because in the original fight you only had to seal the elements by hitting him with it, and then he just added more elements that you had to seal throughout the fight.
Yeah.
He did the same sort of thing, except every threshold he
He
swapped.
flip-flop.
Where getting hit, where getting hit would unseal it. And like, well, okay, let me just unequip my water and fire weapons. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And so it's like you have to like manage your thresholds, and you can't push two of them at once, or else he'll just kill you. Like, I felt like that part of it, if they had only changed it so he didn't alternate, it would have been a great fight design.
See, I like the alternating thing though, because it made you have to pick exactly, like, you're gonna, if you had like an elemental weapon on your Wilhelm or Charlotte or something, right, depending on how you're going to fight, you were gonna get beat up. So like, you needed it made it a pain in the butt to equip your characters, because you wanted someone who'd hit the boss with as many elements as possible, and that was that character's job. I used Machina for that. But then I hated it for that reason, because it's really narrow, but at the same time I like it because the fight goes from hit me with everything and everything you got, make sure you steal pretty much everything I do. And there are some ways around some of the elements, right? Like, you could, like, the earth attack was like a gravity attack, but you could buff up your earth resist, and you could evade it. And you know, some of the elements were more dangerous because they had really powerful secondary effects, where some of the elements are just like, you don't really care about the secondary effects, you just elemental resist it, so you can kind of.
And that's the crazy thing is, the ones you could element resist, they actually didn't hurt nearly as much as most people feared.
Like, I think the most important one was wind. I think wind was the one that you had
because
to
that
seal.
one dispels you.
I think it dispels it and impels you to all elements. So if you didn't have wind damage, you were a goner.
You were dead. That was the one that was like a must do. You could mechanics your way around the other ones with element resistance, evade, whatever.
So for the flip flop, the reason I dislike the flip flop, we just talked about that, but the reason I like the flip flop is it goes from, you need to do like almost all of them, you have to have an answer for almost all of them, to, okay, now I have to pick my poison, like, sort of thing. And it's kind of it's kind of cool that way, because like, you could kind of figure, okay, so I have this character, I can buff my holy resist to a bajillion, and I'll use holy damage, right? But you don't want to do wind damage, which is the worst part, is because anyone who does wind damage is kind of locked out of that fight. Thankfully, we didn't have a lot of wind damage dealers at that point for the most part. But yeah, I definitely see the pros and cons of fight design that way, and I definitely never want to see a fight like that ever again. Just let Gilgamesh be. Just let him be. Speaking of the indignant trials, the Gilgamesh Kai. How do you feel? And we've never talked about this before, I don't think, ever. How do you feel about trials that start off where the boss is just like, you can't hit me for 5 turns? We're gonna be in here for minimum 5 turns. Because I feel it's artificial. Honestly, I don't see the point in it, really.
I think it's just as artificial as like thresholds, where like sometimes thresholds feel interesting and meaningful, and the reason why it works in Chamber of Arms is because there's like a boss transformation and a significant adjustment in mechanics, right? But like, if a boss is like Asura's like, here's 5 turns, I'm following a script to teach you the battle dance, thematically it kind of works for her, but as a player it really sucks, because it's like, okay, I'm gonna just do like one thing a turn for 5 turns and do nothing, and then just crap all over the boss. You know, once she lets her guard down. Like, that one didn't feel as good because I felt like it wasn't as meaningful. It wasn't super clear that it was like a stylistic choice. But like, when you have HP locks, you know, like in the Chamber of Arms, it's actually cool, because it's like, all right, I have to plan for this. I got to get my magic tank out, or I got to put my magic tank away, or I got to have a provoker, I got to have this element resist, whatever.
You got 10 units to play around with, for sure.
Yeah, because it's like it's a more meaningful adjustment as you're going through like those hard locks, and I would consider like being resistant or immune to damage for several turns being kind of a similar thing, where it forces you to deal with mechanics. It just does it in a less meaningful way.
I want to clarify. I don't hate when, you know, halfway through a fight, a boss is like, okay, well, you've done your fun. I'm going to be, you know, immune to most damage, or take significantly reduced damage for a couple of turns. I really don't like the fight that are like, I'm going to take, I think Asura is like the one that takes the most, or
she takes 99% less damage,
like, where she's just like, okay, son, you're not gonna one-shot me, we're gonna be here a couple of turns. Like, I feel like that's kind of like a cop-out, like, you know, like almost like I don't want to call it a failure in design, but it's like, there's not anything else that you could do better than that, other than like, you know,
can't muscle your way around 99% damage mitigation,
right? But like,
if you're talking about like,
can't you design the fight to do
about Gilgamesh Kai or Lich, for example?
Oh yeah, you can kill those ones through it. Yeah, I'm talking about ones that are like immune to damage, like Like
and that's where
I was saying, I'm fine with the ones that are like, it's going to be, you can one shot me or take me to my threshold or whatever. It's just going to be, 30% harder, 40, 50% harder.
Yeah.
Those ones I'm okay with.
I think that's great.
And that's what the recent ones have kind of been. But like ones like that, like a Sura, where it's like, I'm immune. It's like, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm glad I could sit here for 5. It's like a survival battle, I guess, at that point. But at the same time, like, it's
and like
just,
I said,
it's
it's more meaningful, or if it's more interesting, or if it in some way like kind of drives you towards progressing through the fight instead of just sampling the mechanics at you.
You know what drove me to this point? To hate it so much? Ultros and Typhon.
Have
you never
alternating
have you never done Ultros where it's just like, all right, I'm gonna be immune to thunder damage and weak to magic? Nope, JK, dude. I'm just swapping them, be the same thing every turn for forever.
I've actually heard that there are triggers
I've heard
that will
too.
determine.
Yeah.
But like it's one of those things where it's like, you know what?
It's
if the game doesn't tell me, or I can't figure it out by playing it. It's like I don't want to bother.
It's like if he's immune to physical and like in physical damage, and then like fire, water, wind, thunder, or whatever, you have to hit him with like magic, something else for like 2 turns, and it won't force him to swap. It'll keep him from swapping to the same thing again. Apparently, is what it is. And it's still, even then, there's still like, okay, instead of physical and then these 4 elements, there's physical and these other 4 elements, and you're like, great. Seems good.
Well, like,
still
like, how
physical.
would you even know that? Yeah, how would you know that?
You
didn't mine it. Yeah, exactly.
So this kind of segues into some other stuff here. So we talked about a lot about content actually, and just like how we thought about it. That was pretty cool. So from content in general to content difficulty and balances. And none of the stuff we really talked about were imbalances, just our thoughts on design, more or less, anything else. But content difficulty and balances, and I don't know if you have my notes here. I have my notes for myself in parentheses. I think you have a copy of my own personal notes. These aren't things you have to talk about. These are things that I was going to talk about.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about what you're going to talk about.
Nice, dude. No fresh ideas. You've heard it here first. But the first,
I'm out of content ideas.
Done. Exactly. Duns, dude. Oh, my goodness. But I think we've talked about this before. I think it was you. And the one thing that I do see that there's a problem with in the game, and I think we'll get into my thoughts about why it happened. Possibly. I don't want to blame exactly one entity, but there's a distinct tier or lack of mid-tier content for players who are moving from I'm brand new to the game to harder content for the most part. So let's get into this. I'll start, obviously. So obviously different trials and the weekly stuff. So the weekly content, right, the raids, the king wogs, that stuff has all, and even the story modes. I remember when story modes used to be even harder than they are right now. They have been significantly dumbed down, and I'm not even talking about the bonus battles. I'm talking about, you can literally, I think I've taken like a naked almost Zan who has like no attack, and he will one shot every enemy that's a non-boss enemy, and maybe even some of the bosses, all the way up until I'm done with the story mode for the story mode quest. That used to not be the thing. I remember he would do like 10% damage on like the 50-60 energy stuff.
Dude, I remember having to ration my Emperor's MP so that I could have enough Blizzagas and Thundagas to get through it.
And I think, it sounds like I'm going to contradict myself, I think that's a good change, because I don't think just beating trash monsters is something that should be relegated behind being more difficult, right?
Yeah.
But all this weekly stuff, right, King Mogs, etc., 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 even legendary might be beyond someone who's brand new to the game, unless they have a lot of very powerful 7-star bonus unit friends, which they probably don't have access to, because the game likes to give you access to people around your same rank for the most part. So good luck with
that.
Unless you go out of your way to make friends. But there's all this weekly stuff that's really easy. Like the raids are really easy for the most part, unless you're doing legendary. And if
raid difficulty hasn't changed, it's been the same.
It's 4 million HP for a boss around there always. And you're not going to be, as a new player, I know I'm calling it easy if you're a new player listening, and you probably aren't beating it if you've been playing the game for a month or maybe even 2 months, unless you're bringing a friend that can one shot it for you. But it's not that hard. It's really not. Some random friend, put a delete in your team, some sort of defense break. If you're not one-shotting it and you do have 7-star friends, or even some friends with like 2,000 attack, if you have someone who can do like a 50% defense break or magic break. You're going to start one-shotting those bosses like right away. So do that. But so a lot of the stuff's really easy, and a lot of the trial fights, even though they're trial fights and they do want some team composition, and we're talking like the earlier ones like not scorn fights, but you know, almost cut me up there. Could save me. But like Ffpe and Aegeon and maybe even like Marlboro nowadays, if you go out, you know, you're like, hey, I really need a carry for this, someone who just one-shot this boss or something, you can find that, and you're going to be able to beat those trials really fast without really needing to have a team around them. And then you're going to run to this part where you're going to go from these fights where you can almost always have a carry. There's gonna be a couple fights where you can't. You're gonna work up, be able to beat those fights, right? The Great Bomb family, there is technically a carry, I think, for that, like 100% dodge knocked is something that's specifically set up for it. But you're not just gonna find someone out of your friends list. You're gonna be able to eventually work your way up to beat that kind of stuff, and then you're going to run into a massive content change that's based around having a full team of 7 stars, and a new player isn't gonna go from, I've got a new account, I've played the game for 4 or 5 months, to I have a full team of tuned, decked out, TMR'd 7-star units ready to rare. I got my Elena, I got my Charlotte. You're not going to have all of these things decked out and ready to go to start tackling anything beyond Scorn of Gilgamesh or Gilgamesh Reborn, any of those trials. And let alone that, you're just not going to be able to do that. And so there's this distinct lack of like mid-tier content, mid-tier difficulty content that I think we almost kind of had, but didn't get, and we definitely need to get it. So I something like something easier than the Scorn fights. Like if they were to make more content, some sort of trials or something. Once again, the trials based like difficulty wise, not Scorn tier, but somewhere around where Gilgamesh Reborn, maybe some a little bit weaker than Gilgamesh Reborn, maybe some a little bit harder than Gilgamesh Reborn, but no new player, no one's that's been playing this game for, unless you've been really lucky and been really hashing it out and planning it out and been doing literally everything. You're not beating any Scorn trial like in less than like 8 months. And you have to be incredibly lucky, and you have to hit the game at the right spot, like maybe during anniversary. You're not touching a Scorn trial for nearly a year. No. That is a long time, you know, unless you're, you know, spending a bunch of money or whatever and accelerating your growth that way. Like you're not getting there. It's not happening. So there needs to be something else for these players to do.
And you know what I think it was? I think it used to be the weekly events in the
that's where I was
like
going,
because
baby.
It actually, dude, we're on the same page with this one. Where like it used to be hard enough. Like I specifically remember the first time I could one-shot a raid and how big a deal it was. Like I had been struggling and just getting as many coins as I could through raids up to that point, but I just couldn't do it. And then I finally pulled my first 5-star base chainer, Eileen, and the Titan raid came, and he was super hard, and he was crapping all over everybody. And they released like the week 2 trial. I still couldn't beat that, but at least, you know, the raid itself, I could go ahead and one shot with an Eileen friend. I could chain it down, you know, and that was like and it wasn't that hard. It wasn't that time consuming because, you know, you're talking about like loading up on Eileen friends, and I had a ton of them, and you know, it wasn't too onerous to do, but it was actually like significant enough where it was like, okay, this is not killing me, but I have to be paying attention. There's actually some element of strategy here, something where I have influence over how easy this can be based on a strategy that I put together or based on something like that. And I understand that like not everybody wants that sort of thing. Some people really want to just have an easy time with their content. They want to just hit repeat, they want to hit auto, and they want to move on with their life.
Well, that's what's gotten us to where we are now, where there is no mid-tier content.
That's where we are, exactly, because I have 7-star Furion, and I literally just hit auto with him. He auto limit bursts and one-shots every piece of content in the game, and he'll even do it on some trials, like some actual, like, you know, Emperor is a prolonged example of him just hitting auto and clearing the content. And like that's not what I want out of my content. I don't want to just hit auto and have everything just clear itself. I want to have an opportunity to actually play the game.
And like any sort of like in my mind, like this mid-tier content, you'll still be able to beat that sort of thing as a veteran player relatively easily. It's not going to be challenging for you. It's going to be weaker than a normal trial. But like I remember anytime there's something that comes out that's like moderately hard, There's at least in my comment section, you know, not like people highly complain about it, but there are complaints about it. I remember when Nightmare Mode Halloween Fight came out. You know, that came out. It was pretty hard. All right, it wasn't trial difficulty hard, and there were some bugs with that trial specifically. But that caused a pretty big backlash. Everyone wanted that dagger because it was a really good reward. And what happened is, you know, we kind of stopped getting that kind of stuff. We kind of stopped getting really good rewards on time-limited weekly content or 2-week content.
And you can't help but wonder how much of that is because of people complaining about it being too hard. And then they release stuff where it's like, well, if you do the content or you don't, it doesn't matter. You're not missing out on anything except maybe some clear lapis. And know what I mean?
And then even more recently, you know, we just got the Vengeful trial for it, the Little Lantern guy. But like when he came out, like that was for a mid-tier player, like someone who's been playing the game 6-7 months. That's probably a pretty hard trial. The reward for that trial was not very good, and so what I'd like to see is more stuff around that. Or maybe even like if you have a really strong friend or you've been playing the game for a couple of months, you can maybe build up a nice like supportive option. You can have like a supportive option and then bring the damage from your friend. That's what it used to be back in the day. That's how I built all of my teams. You built support, you built tanks, you built tankiness. You didn't get TMRs for all this damage and stuff. You brought your friend damage dealer, and yet you abused them, you know. And this is true for a lot of like new gacha games too. And it's not changed for FFB. If you're a new player, or if you're playing another mobile game, you take the strongest friend you can, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to be way stronger than you are. And in a game that's older like this, that's going to be even more true, especially as a new player in FFBE. So what I'd like to see is some more of that stuff. Because it's not going to be like, you know, super interesting for a veteran, like I said. So like it's not like I need more content. But what I'd like to see is some better rewards for both the weekly content as well as this new, like a new mid-tier content. So in the new mid-tier content, actually be mid-tier, have it be like a mini trial or so. Don't make it like a 5 million HP. You know, all these 2-week raid bosses, the second raid bosses, they're all jokes for the most part for a lot of players out there. They all have like 5 million HP and can be status ailment for some reason out of the blue. And
you can break them, and you can outside of
the Lantern boss, and then Hasiko, right? Which Hasiko is an entirely different thing. I want to see Hasiko.
Which draining all your MP preemptively does not actually.
That's not
count
a mechanic. That's not a mechanic. That's a big fuck you to the community. I'm gonna say it right there.
There's your one F word for the PG-13 video.
Yeah. Can we get 5,000 likes for my demonetization? I'm also not COPPA compliant. FTC, so we're good here. But definitely,
it's all good. We're here for the memes.
I would like to see better rewards. Now, when I say better rewards for the weekly content, I don't mean they need to be pumping out super TMR tier rewards or even TMR rewards. But remember when they're in the Easter event when they gave out the if you did the event, you got the asterisk, right? Two-handed, 120 elemental. The two-handed greatsword, 120 attack, 125 maybe elemental lightning. There needs to be like I think minimum. For the weekly stuff, it needs to be at least half as powerful as a TMR, if not better. Like, I'm tired of seeing 5 attack headpieces with 50% poison. Like no new player. I wouldn't use that as a new player if I was playing. That's not going to do nothing for me. I can go buy gear from a vendor
It's not even going to help you auto through the story. Yeah. Like it literally does nothing.
And they have been better with the vengeful stuff because that's mid-tier content, and I do like seeing that.
The armor pieces are really good.
Yeah, so I want to see more stuff like that because that is definitely going to help out mid-tier players. I've seen a lot of people.
One that drives people to want to clear it too.
Yeah,
rather than
exactly.
Like, if I miss it, I don't actually.
And I really like they expanded or in the process of expanding that stuff from 25 to 50. I want to see more stuff like that, and I wish there was weekly stuff like that too, because that's once a month, right? Which is pretty cool. There's an armor set relatively like once-ish a month. We've been getting one every other month or something like that. It seems like they're alternating between an Indignant and Vengeful. We've had 3 of them now, so it's not once a month, but they're alternating. They're filling in the gaps of Indignant and series bonus boss battles with those fights. But I want to see more weekly stuff. You know, there's no reason that we can't have good at least competent gear. I'll say competent gear for the weekly rewards. There's no reason King Mog should be giving out 40 attack swords and all, a bunch of like literal garbage. We should never see any of that stuff ever again. And then anytime we have this, that's the easy content reward should be competent gear. And then if we have more mid-tier content, it might be more difficult. And I know there's a FOMO thing out there, and a lot of the reaction that happened to stuff like especially the Halloween event when it came out 2 years ago was, I can't beat it, it's not fair. Here's my question to that is, if you can't beat it, you can't get it. If it's not in the game because you complained about it, you're also not going to get anything like that again. So we're not going to have we're not going to get trials designed that are semi difficult to beat with pretty good rewards. If you can't beat it, you're not going to get it. If you complain about it, they're not going to design stuff like that, and they're not going to design TMR tier weapons and just throw them out because you logged into the game. It's not going to happen. Yeah. So,
and it's like people are like, well, you don't get Buster style from Cloud as, a really good TMR. You don't get that just because, it should be fair that you get it. It's like, no, you actually like had to plan your resources, whether it meant you could buy the resources or you could save it up or whatever, save up your Moogle, save up your Lapis Topol for it, use UOCs or whatever. Like, that it doesn't matter whether or not it's fair. It's not fair. It's a random game. You get the cards that you're dealt and you get to deal with it. And sometimes that means, it's going to suck. And that's how gachas are. And some people just aren't used to it, or they don't want to accept that. But that's the way it is. It will never be fair. Yeah. Because random. That's how it goes.
It's always about, doing and making the best decisions that you can. And sometimes they won't work out, but it's that's just, like we said before, the nature of the beast. But there are, thankfully, some minor, although expensive, things that you have to save up for with step-ups nowadays to help you.
Yeah, it's pretty pricey
to get that stuff. And you can't just be, pulling on every banner. Because we get, step-ups 25K, and without, like, any, like, extra giveaways from, like, live streams or whatever, that happens, like, once a year, twice a year now. You get 20,000, 21,000, something like that lapis a month. So it's going to take you a while to save up, but you're going to need to do that for sure. But it would definitely help these newer players that come into the game progress and not stall out. Because I've played other gacha games before, and the worst thing to feel is that you're really into it, and you suddenly feel like you can't progress anymore. You hit this, like, you just hit like a literal wall. You don't want someone to hit a literal wall. As far as being able to play the game and progress their characters, because they're just going to quit the game. And I don't blame them for that. Like, if I started playing FFBE and the only thing for me to do right away was get garbage tier rewards with 40 attack swords, and like I've been able to get carried up through Aegeon Reborn and stuff, and I'm sitting with 2 7-stars, possibly if I'm really lucky, re-rolled a bunch or whatever, and then got some other stuff. Maybe I have 1 7-star, probably only even have 1 7-star, probably a couple 4-stars and a 6-star if you're playing a game for like 2 months. You're lucky you can have a 7-star. But if I'm playing the game for like 4 or 5 months and I'm like desperate for some stuff because I'm still getting into it, but I really want to play it more, listen, some 28 attack bronze sword isn't going to help me, like, do legendary mode on an event, or do this other stuff, do the raid better, and me doing the raid isn't going to help me. What was the raid going to give me? Oh, the 40 attack sword, great, fantastic. You don't feel like any bumps in power. You need to be able to get some nice free bonuses, like we said. Not super TMRs coming out of every orifice, or TMRs coming out of every orifice, but competent,
but something that's unique
gear.
And adds value.
Every once in
a asterisk adds value because there's no substitute for it.
It's just a two-handed
other than a limited time STMR.
It's really strong, and it's elemental, which is crazy good. And they have had good stuff before. It's just, it seems like it's so far in few in between for good rewards that aren't tied to trials.
That's what it is. Because like Aigaon Kai's Fisker reward is obviously amazing.
All of them can be for the most part. There's like the bow's like not the greatest, but like even Tiger's Claw. Like, I don't think there's another fist weapon in the game that has a higher attack than Tiger's Claw right now. you know.
Right, and you're never gonna see that as like a event reward. But I
No,
remember
yeah.
when Nier came to the game, and you got Cruel Oath, which was like 105 attack, which was like
Yeah.
on par with the trial reward from Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh sweet, this is sick. This is actually good.
Yeah, I don't know the
Because
last time we've gotten over 100 attack weapon from a reward asterisk. I
Yeah.
guess. But yeah, there's so few and far between, and they're so helpful, and they need to come out more with that
it
kind of
doesn't
stuff.
have to be a meta buster. It never has to
Yeah,
be.
remember,
Like,
we were talking about
something-
Second Knife. Remember, we were talking about Second Knife literally last night.
Oh, dude,
5
that
attack,
changed my
5
whole
attack
game.
dagger,
Yeah.
incredibly OP. You know, back in the
Dude,
day,
I threw that on Mercedes
Yeah.
and just crapped on everything. It was amazing.
Even if they brought it back right now, a new player would still be able to eventually use that. It's a dagger, it gives them dual wield. You put it on a support, give it High Tide Plus. Give people the ability to make smart decisions to improve their accounts is definitely what we need to be seeing here. So more rewards that are on par with the kind of content that's coming up. So definitely, and they give them something. Give people something to do so they can progress into the harder content later on down the line. And I do think possibly we don't know how it's going to work, but I do see a middle ground here with the fixed trials possibly. I'm going to say possibly one more time coming out to give people something to do that's difficult without them needing to have an entirely built up team, because you and I and everyone else for the first 2 bosses in a fixed trial are going to be on the same playing field, same characters, same gear, and that's going to be cool. Hopefully those rewards are going to be good. And they also have been doing some mid-tier content with the not legendary, the elite forms of the Chamber of the Vengeful, which I like as well. So more stuff like that is always welcome. Definitely. So that was the massive shift, and the weekly content too easy. I think we talked about all of that.
I think we just about covered it.
We did it. All right.
We went through a wormhole and we're out the other side. I'm not even sure where we are anymore.
Crazy. So the last one. So what sort of new content would you like to see? Now they already kind of told us, with the fixed stuff that seems kind of cool. With whatever it's called, Dark Visions, that's kind of cool. That's for the Dark Visions is for the big boy veterans apparently, because it's like how cool are you? How big can your numbers get? How many chains can you do? How much damage can you not take? How much damage can you do? Sort of thing on rank, which is pretty cool. I like that too. That's a hopefully some sort of thing. So what sort of new content? I'm gonna let you go first here. Would you like?
I think one of the things that I passed along back when Elytra was community manager, and they may have heard it and created the Holiday Road, whatever they called it, like the trial thing from this, where they released all those trials, those limited time trials at once, right? What I recommended was like, why don't we have it so that there's essentially like a weekly randomizer that says, all right, here's the 3 trials that we've pulled, from the different trials that we've had across.
Oh, just like the week 2 event stuff. Is that what you're talking about?
It could be week 2s, but like, let's say for example, like, all right, this week we randomly get, you get Asura, and you get
just like
Alexander 3-star.
Oh, okay.
And you get like let's say we take an OG fight, like you get Echidna, but it's buffed. So you have like one of the 3 that's buffed. So maybe bigger HP pool, bigger modifiers, whatever. Shouldn't be too hard to tune them up, because you may not even have to change the AI. You just have to scale it for 3 damage dealers.
I don't know what would go into tuning them up, but
yeah, it could just be like 3 random trials, and you get to take your party in, and that's it. To fight 3 trials back to back to back. And then you get like a unique reward from it, and it doesn't have to be something that's like OP STMR, but something that's like we talked about, like that adds unique value, that makes it so it's like, all right, this is worth my time to log in and try this out. And it wouldn't necessarily be like super overpowered difficult, because it's all trials we already have, we've already beaten. But like, how would you form a party to take on this boss and this boss and this boss?
It almost sounds like a mini version of the tower
Torturous Trio. Oh yeah. I was
JP
gonna say Torturous Trio, but it's the same thing.
Sound like Torturous Trio too.
It'd be like Torturous Trio, but if they actually had any challenge to it.
If they actually buffed up some of the fights, because that's kind of what Tower was at the end. Is that the first couple, from my understanding of it, is like the first couple floors were just like, hey, you just did it. And then near the end it was like, I don't want to say rehash, but like kind of rehashed sprites, assets, in bosses.
Like, oh look, another Odin or another like
exactly.
Ramu,
but they were harder and stuff, and you had to do them in order. So it sounds almost like a randomized, mini cut all the trash out of it tower event that would happen every week. That'd be pretty cool.
And the challenge comes from like being able to like make a party that can take on different mechanics. So you would have to have flexible units that have like some level of kind of give and synergy.
So just take the Exodia team is what you're saying. I just take Myra, Sylvie, Charlotte, and
No, I'm leaving Fit at home. I'm taking Edgar.
Okay.
Edgar's coming with me.
Mr. Castle Toy guy. Okay.
I'm not into jailbait, okay? Sue me.
Hey, dude, she's like 5 million years old and she's wearing like I don't even know. I just like when she like smacks the volleyball into Fina's face and she's like, "Oh my god, I killed somebody. They died." It's my favorite thing. But yeah, that does sound cool.
Silka, but yeah.
No, her auto attack animation. They bounce the volleyball back and forth, and then Lid just like spikes it into Fina's face, and she like falls down and doesn't move, and like Lid walks over and goes, and she like covers her face. She's like, "Oh my god!"
Did I do that?
Yeah, she's like, "Oh no, I killed somebody." Definitely, yeah. So that kind of plays into what I was saying, or what I was going to say is, whatever kind of content comes out, it needs to always feel fresh and almost repeatable. So like, repeatable, fresh, rewarding content. I don't need it to work in a specific way or anything like that, but it definitely needs to be at least mid-tier difficulty. I don't want it to be me. I'm autoing it, so it needs to be semi-difficult in the mid-tier thing again, because it's going to be that way because I think that's what we're lacking. And it needs to have, like you said, a good reward structure. It needs to be powerful, but it doesn't need to be super team art tier or anything. It could be unique and strong at the same time. Like, when's the last time we've
give us a unit? Like, how they're going to be giving out units with King Mog events like they do in JP. Why not give us a unit that's like a 7-star unit? No, not a meta unit, but one that you can actually use.
A mid-tier reward would be a great like we were saying, if you've only got one 7-star or no 7 stars in your account, you can beat that mid-tier thing that comes out and you get a unit 1 or 2 times, or once a month or every other month or something. That's a good reward, as long as it's not a garbage unit, which a lot of the free units I've been seeing, they're pretty good. They're not crazy. I think Kadaj actually is really strong. Like, he's not like number 1, but he's like really good. If you were to get
even
Kadaj
if they're not
today,
the best units, they'll give you like decent items, and they're not going to be best in slot items for someone like me who has like a whole repertoire of items. It'll be good for people who are at that mid tier. Yeah,
because you'll get the 7-star unit, and they'll give you their TMR for them, and they'll give you their super TMR.
And it's unique. And then from a content creator's perspective, like, think about how refreshing it would be to be like, oh, this is something that everybody has access to. So let me incorporate this into some of the content that I make, so it's a little more accessible. Kind of like what the blue dress Katy Perry did, where I did a video that did pretty well. That was like, here's a bunch of old trials that you can just take a naked Katy Perry into and one shot with an appropriate friend unit. And here's the friend unit you asked for. And here's the build.
And we're not saying they need to come up with more 7 stars that are on power level with Katy Perry, because we should be getting, with this King Mog rework that Mars is talking about, pretty strong units. Like, they make Katy Perry look like a joke. Like, they're actual units. So like, definitely stuff like that. So whatever sort of content comes out, some sort of good reward, mid-tier power, and find a way to make it not feel boring. It needs to be some sort of battle that's got mechanics behind it. It can't be, here's a 4 million HP boss, go kill it with something, take a defense break or something. It doesn't need to be the most like in-depth thing, but definitely something like. And I think your idea of like a mini tower thing, it falls right in the line with what I like. It's not repetitive because there's different bosses all the time. It's mid-tier content, and it gives a good reward. So like, and that sounds right up my alley for the kind of stuff that I think
to do every week. So if I'm like, I gotta make a video this week, and I'm struggling.
Mars is in here for the content ideas. I got you. Okay,
dude.
All right. Okay.
Make it easy for me to make content. Don't make it hard by doing like banner after banner with like no content.
They do put in a lot of stuff each week. It's just there needs to be that one more that one mid. I'm gonna hammer this on that one mid-tier thing, because
that one thing that you just need a little attention for.
And I like the raid rework that they just did, because I slacked on like the last all of the raids. Okay, so I don't think I've turned in raid coins until this raid, because STMR tickets, I count that as a mid-tier reward, because do you get anything?
It doesn't matter that it's only like 5,
it's 10
or 10 or whatever. Yeah,
that's a 10.
So in 10 months you'll have an STMR, but like that's actually valuable.
Well, in 10 months from that event alone, you'll have a super TMR.
Yeah.
Don't forget that if you're a veteran player, you have the Chamber of the Vengeful stuff, and it's going to be 50 units if you want to do that, and I think that's also 10 tickets as well. You get 5 out of the for beating it 25 times, and I think they added another 5 for the 26th or 50th. So anytime one of those comes out, I think they said that they're releasing with 50. It's actually, I think there's a message in the game right now that the exterminator, freaking Shally, exterminator extraordinaire it is 50. The other ones aren't, but the other ones were supposed to be, but there was like a bug or something, or they didn't get it in time, but they were all supposed to have 50. So like anytime we get a new one, that's another 10 too, and we don't get one every month, but like you're gonna get 10 from a raid, 10 from another raid, 10 from a raid, because we get a raid at least each month, and then 10 more. So like in 3 months, in 2 to 3 months, you're gonna have like 30 to 40 tickets, which is crazy. And that's only from those 2 events. Who knows if we get anything else? But that's crazy. Like that's a super TMR in like 8 months maybe. That's nuts.
Yeah, depending on other
or 6 or whatever. Yeah, 7 to 8, like 7ish months. That sounds like a long time, but that's a lot of lapis saved up. If you spend that in the right way, that's like, if you have bad luck, you're looking at 100,000 lapis, or something.
Oh my god! Don't remind.
Yeah, no, for real. That's like 100,000 lapis you just got for that powerful super TMR. The last thing I think the game definitely needs is some sort of player interaction. Now, I'm not talking like we need to have guild chat. Would be cool. Never gonna happen. So I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, but we need to be able to interact with other players or something. Whether it be co-op PvP, being able to message each other. It's like there needs to be some sort of interaction.
What if you could go to your friends list, tap somebody's name, and tap a button that says send build request, and then you could request, you could fill in like your parameters, like I want a Sabin,
like
and I want him built. Where you can ping somebody and it says, hey, I'm requesting a build, and then you can go to your friends list, or you can respond directly to that build request and just input, here's my Sabin, here's my equips, and then now they have like basically an inbox item that they can use as their friend slot unit. Something like that would just bypass the friends unit list, because the friends list is fine when you don't care which one of your friends you're grabbing. Like for a King Mog event, it doesn't really matter, just grab any of them. But like if you're like, dude, my best damage dealer is Sabin, okay? And I don't have anyone on my friends list popping up. I know I have that 1 or 2 friends that love Sabins and have great Sabins, and I just can't sit here and refresh the friends list for an hour for one attempt.
I feel like raise your hand if you've ever been on stream with like there's at least 12 on your friends list character you're trying to beat a trial with, and you sit there for like 30 minutes trying to find one of the 12 and it doesn't show up, and everyone gets mad.
I won't do it anymore.
Yeah,
dude, the DPS pool is like so fractured among the players that like you can't just like get a cult of Sabin friends and just roll with that anymore. You used to be able to do it when like you're a rainbow damage dealers, Yeah,
you have to put in a lot of extra work to do it. I can't anymore really do that, and this is kind of a me problem. It's not really a game problem, but I give out friendless slots all the time, so I can't go, because I used to, like when Ffpe came, I cultivated mono Ffpe friends, and if someone swapped their friend, I'd delete them and I'd go find somebody else.
For ages,
but I can't do that anymore. Other players, it takes some work. You literally have to go out and seek other people out for that kind of stuff. You can do it for sure. It's not like it's gonna take you 6 hours to do it or anything. There's places to go and do that, but like, we definitely need some sort of like interaction in the game. I think the last thing that needs to get changed, and I know a lot of people are going to turn the video off right here. Actually, sorry. Thanks for watching so far. Hit that subscribe button, notification bell on. But I think Arena needs to get changed. I know the meme, someone's going to put it already. Someone already paused it. They're coming back right now, listen to my voice. And they put, delete it from the game as their comment, as the change. But the arena system definitely needs a good change. I don't know how to fix the combat system, because a lot of other gacha games that do arena have a speed system as well, where ours doesn't. But ultimately, the speed system comes down for the most part to who has gotten better gear. I'm not talking specifically about a game like Epic 7 or anything, where
Right.
a lot of the strategy, there are other strategies, but a lot of it comes down to, is my team that's supposed to go first faster than your team that's supposed to go first? Which, if you think about it, that's what arena is in FFBE right now. And it's like my chaining team does my chain. Like if the AI wasn't stupid in FFBE, you'd literally go into the arena. If they went first, they would use all their chaining skills and kill your team. If you went first, you'd use all your, you do use all your chaining skills and kill their team. The only thing that keeps it from being that explicitly right now is the AI is stupid and auto attacks you about 90% of the time.
It'll use bar fire on a random person
for whatever reason. But I don't, I don't know how to explicitly fix the combat system. Obviously, the AI has to be a part of it if they want to fix that. And how the damage is done needs to get changed. But the whole like weekly system thing, that definitely needs to get changed. And it's like your only source of farmable pots, and it's excruciating. Yeah. So like I posed this question to Twitch, and we could not come up as a collective community with a really good answer, in my opinion, on how to fix the combat system. That's something different. That is something to do with chaining. That is something to do with all of the units going at the same time. And it's always going to have to be one team and then the other team. So it's going to have to do something with how the damage is dealt. Maybe there needs to be like a chain nerf in PvP. Something needs to get done in there. But the one thing that definitely needs to get changed is, in the best idea that I saw was, there needs to be like an arena season in arena ranks. Like bronze, silver, gold, like platinum, diamond, whatever there is, master, whatever. So what would happen is, the more you win, obviously you get points, and then you go into the next bracket. If you guys haven't played any sort of PvP anything game in forever, I'm pretty sure most of you have. But so you get your daily rewards for doing your arenas and stuff, and then you get a weekly reward for being whatever bracket you're in. So like if you're in bronze, on the weekly restart or end of maintenance or whatever, you get the minimum amount of lapis or in a rare summon ticket or whatever. You maybe get 100 lapis in a rare summon ticket, 200 lapis in a rare summon ticket, whatever bronze is. If you're silver, you get a higher reward with more tickets. If you're gold, you get a higher reward with more tickets. If you're platinum, higher lapis, more tickets, diamond, whatever.
Yep.
And then, after a couple of months or whatever, that can get reset down to how most MMR systems reset, right? If you're like gold 1, you'll go back down to gold 5 or whatever. If you're diamond 1, you'll go to diamond 5. If you're diamond 5, you'll stay diamond 5, whatever.
And the reason that I think that this is important is because like the meta for the arena is whatever team you can put out there that kills itself the fastest.
Yeah.
That's what people are running, and it's like, well, what's the point of the arena then?
Yeah.
Just give out like a monthly allowance of pots and just don't waste people's time.
Well, like the other thing too is that like a lot of people don't like the arenas because you'll go in there, you'll match up against somebody for the daily reward. There's no long-term goal for the arena. It resets every week, so there's no there's no drive to like get a big reward every week or anything. It's just some burst pots. Maybe there's some pots that you get every week, but there's no like big reward or anything like that. There's no climbing the ladder or anything of that nature, because it's going to get reset. And what happens is you end up just kind of like fighting everybody. Like it's everywhere because the combat system's so broken. And a lot of people don't like running against those 5 times Lilith teams or anything of that nature. So, maybe they can even change the way you build your teams. Maybe you can have dupe units in your teams. They could do that too, while they're changing how damage works in the formula, so you can't run against 15 Tillis. But what would also happen,
force you to run based on like the job icons that they added like for the different classes. So you have attackers and you have supports, or
you could
maybe like force you to have to like fill out slots or something like that.
Yeah, or just like you can't use duplicate characters. That way you can't have 3 Tillis and a Nayaka and an Awakened Rain or something. But if you don't like running in that kind of stuff, if you're not winning a whole bunch of games, likelihood those characters with those sort of teams on defense aren't going to be in the lower divisions. They're going to be in the higher divisions. So they're just going to eliminate all of those teams that you'll ever see out of the pool until you can start, you know, putting your own team together and climbing up. And it'll create an entirely different environment as well. Now, keep in mind, there's no way that this could ever happen with the way that the PvP works right now, as far as how stupid the AI is and how unbalanced. Because, well, like, the main problem is the quadratic damage formula in FFBE. You have a character that's got, if you're stacked, you know, a damage that's got like 16,000 HP, but still has, like, without even trying, like 2,000 attack, and your character is calculated and formulated to do millions of damage. And the 999 damage cap is just a band-aid fix to that. That's just a band-aid fix. That's all that is. Something definitely needs to get reworked there. But I think PvP could be a thing for people to work towards. I know it's very popular in a lot of other games. Ours is just very, very, very broken. It needs a massive rework and definitely has to happen there. Obviously, I'm going to shout out for multiplayer co-op, but that's never going to happen either. I've kind of given up on that.
No.
At this point, I kind of actually would rather see the PvP system get reworked than multiplayer
just entirely.
Co-op. Yeah, just entirely. Just give it brackets and figure out how to do damage. But outside of that, I think the only last thing to talk about is I was very sad that I didn't make it to New York this year, and even more sad that there wasn't an actual big fan festa once again, because last year we hung out and that was
dude, it was so hype
with everyone, dude, with all the content creators and supporters that were there as well, coming in and hang out. It was a good time.
I just couldn't justify the trip for like a few hours in one evening.
Oh, dude,
you know,
listen,
especially where it was so far.
I can't justify a trip to go to Thanksgiving today, which is the day that this. I could justify driving, 2.5, 3 hours for a dinner. I was like, I'm gonna stay the night. Actually, I'm not driving 3 there and then 3 back for dinner.
Yeah, we would have to stay, make a trip of it, and it's like, man, we don't really want to go to New York on a trip, so it's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, at least like make it worth the trip, and I understand there may be logistics or financing or heaven knows what is like their limitations for that, but I definitely was disappointed, and I was hoping for a repeat experience of last year because it was
so fun.
Dude, it re-energized me for the game. It was such a fun, dude. It was so fun. I had never loved Brave Exvius more.
Yeah, it was, and like what they did was cool with what they announced and stuff at the New York live stream, but like.
Dude, I was asleep. I slept through the whole live stream. I woke up and saw the news, and I just shrugged it all off. I was like, man,
you were like, that's not my fan festa. Yeah,
I was like,
missed
that's
it.
not my president. Yeah. Well, and they it's like, what? So what? They announced more units. Yeah, they announced like a few things that I'm like interested in, but like it kind of goes back to one of the points that I made in my video that I feel like I made well, and I maybe don't have to adjust. Yeah. The whole promises thing of like, dude, if it's not in the game, it doesn't exist. Like, Rico Rodriguez 4-star trials, which I know they were trash in JP and not well received, but even still, like, it's better than none at all. Like, come on, give us something, and that could be mid-tier content. That could be something that they could just
3 and 4-star trials will never be mid-tier content. You take that back. How terrible they are. Which I don't even care.
I don't know any details about them.
I'd rather have them leave those out and do the whole like mini random rotating boss thing you just said. That sounds infinitely better than 3 and 4-star trials.
I agree with you, but like the thing is that they promised stuff and it didn't come, and it's like, all right, cool, now you're polling what CG character you want us to do. How about you do the one that you promised last year?
I don't even know if Dwayne's gonna be CG. I've always called him CG Dwayne because it's a joke, because it sounds like
that's what they had to vote for though. They're like, what 3-star character
was it for
original
CG?
Yeah, it was specifically to make a 7-star CG original.
Mars, it's been so long that I forgot.
Dude, they forgot. That's why they didn't make it.
No, okay. I was actually really mad at that conference that they had, the New York live stream, when I was watching it, when they didn't say anything about CG Dwayne or whatever, and then I was like, okay, here they come. They're gonna talk about Dwayne, and it was another poll for what character you want. I was like, what are you talking about?
I was like, how about Dwayne? How about the one that you told us you would do, man?
Also, you all need to vote for Chizuru.
Dude, I would love CG Chizuru. That would be
Chizuru's in the chat, right? well, no chat, but cheers in the comment section, for sure. But yeah, I definitely missed out on or missed FanFesta. That was a blast last year, and it was just so much fun. I was flabbergasted.
I was
hanging out.
Phoenix and I were both surprised at how much fun we had because we went there not really knowing anybody personally,
dude.
And we left
I didn't
with
either.
friends.
I went there knowing, having physically met one person, which was Shally, because I had been at E3 with Shally, and I was like, I'm just gonna hang out with y'all because I'm personable. Obviously, we met and fine. I'm not some weird creeper or anything.
You and I were both standing around awkwardly, same as each other. I was like, all right, well, let's just make a thing of this. Let's go.
What's up, dude? Yeah, it was probably after. When was that? Was that night after the concert or after the event was over for the first time?
Oh, the first time you and I met was when we were theory crafting Aurora Fravia builds on the floor of the convention center.
Dude, that whole fucking thing was a blur, dude. Like, I'm sorry, I don't remember our first time meeting. My bad,
dude.
Because I
saw you and I was like, holy shit, he's so tall. Yeah.
That was like a beacon too, because people were like, hey, and I was like, sup. I was going from one conversation to the other, and it was so fun. But yeah, it was a whirlwind for sure. And then we partied all night. 4 a.m.
That was probably, the memorable part for those who could keep their drinking in check. For others, it may have been another forgotten night.
It was a good time.
The whole thing was it was so fun because, you have one thing in common that draws everybody together, and the core of the game is just so good. That's why we all play it. That's why we played it for years. That's why I'm somebody who never played mobile games before. I freaking hate phone games. And here I am. It's like, dude, giant waste of time, drains my phone batteries. If I have time to sit down and play a phone game, I can play a computer game that's better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's always been my rationale. But like, to have a game that is so persuasively fun and drives together a community like this, like, I don't know where else you can get that. It's so unique and so fun.
It is cool. I do enjoy it thoroughly. Even if people drop some really ridiculous comments in the DMs sometimes, but you take what you can get. How do I build Frivia? Why did I get no units? I did 3 500 pulls. Now I'm on a Lapis. I don't know, bro. You gotta save it up. That was new players' important tip number 1. Don't forget it. I
spent 14 tickets and got nothing. The rates are a lie.
You never understand me. But let them know who you are, Mars. Drop your Twitter or in YouTube or in Twitch up in here so everyone can.
Yeah. So, my YouTube channel is Meet Me on Mars. My Twitch channel is Meet Me on Mars. We stream twice a week, typically Wednesdays and Fridays in the evening around 7:30 Mountain Standard Time, so like 6:30 Pacific. And I just got a new Twitter. If you wanted to include that, it's _Martian Chris. So
is that with a K, like Kris Kringle?
No, Chris like CHRIS. That's my name.
I know.
I am yet another Chris, dude.
Oh my goodness, dude.
So, did we have so many of those? Dyer passed away, so we have like one less Chris.
Passed away. For a half second, I was like, did he really? And I was like, oh.
No.
Oh my.
I mean, he may as well have, but.
Hey man, it was the 90s. Everyone's a Chris apparently.
Dude, I guess, and Josh's too. So
Yeah, for sure.
That's
a Jason, Josh, Jenny, Chris. Christopher, but for sure, thank you guys for coming and hanging. I hope you had a good time. It was longer than I thought it would be, and this is the meeting of the minds for sure. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to see more stuff, check out Mars's channel. If you want to see more stuff here, as always, Final Fantasy Brave Exvius and other Final Fantasy-esque titles related. Subscription button is on your screen somewhere. I'm sure you can hit it. It's big and red. And so go ahead and hit that button. But until then, guys, stay safe out there. And I'll see you guys in the next one.